All right, you call it to order.
Sorry?
You're the one who calls to order. I just take the roll.
Oh, call the meeting to order.
I'm talking about federal.
This is the July.
Did you say July?
Can you turn my mic?
I
Is
just-
my mic on? There we go. All right, call the meeting to order of the January 2nd Santa Monica PSROC meeting. Ms. Parson, would you mind taking the roll, please?
Commissioner Centeno,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Mohanty is absent. Commissioner Stead Stroud,
Hi.
Commissioner Devermont,
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin-Busseri,
Here.
Commissioner Harrington is absent. Commissioner Winnemore, absent. Commissioner Palazzolo,
Here.
Commissioner Cruz is absent, and Commissioner Ramon.
All right, I think the
Wait,
first
I'm
thing,
here.
did everybody get called? Okay.
No.
Oh, Commissioner Scott didn't get called.
Oh, the one and only Commissioner Scott.
President counted for.
The great and powerful. All right, let's do general public comment first. Get that done unless there's any objection. Let's get that out of the way.
Okay, the first one is from Zoe, and the next speaker will be Anya.
Get 2 minutes each. When you start talking, I'll start the time.
Good evening. Happy New Year to everybody. I come today to speak about something that happened again, and I spoke to Commissioner Brian Stech, who is the person in charge of this committee on public safety. I called the police on November 29. I've been having trouble with my landlord since 2022. And my landlord assaulted me on November. I called the police, and the police actually, what they did is that they actually talked to my landlord and her attorney. And I'm going to quote what he put in on his answer to a motion. On the recommendation of the police officer, plaintiff sought a restraining order against defendant Zoe Montaner. So I call the police because I'm assaulted, and the police tells the abuser to take a TRO against me. Officer De Cornale and Officer Chabon, and then the lieutenant in charge of them, that is Robert De Andrea, trying to cover this up. You know, it's their body cameras, there's video, there's a police report that was taken after, and it was sent to the city attorney. And we keep having the same problem. So I'm just bringing to the attention that because of that, I've been staying in a hotel. I've spent already over $2,000. I'm a student at Santa Monica College. I shouldn't be spending $2,157. That's more than the rent that I pay. And it is abusive. It is obscene that this is happening to me for a second time, because it happened back in 2013, and I have the evidence here, and the officers accused me of trespassing my own apartment, and I'm not the only one.
Time
Yes.
is up.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Start.
No, hold on. Ms. Parson, is she next?
Yes.
Okay, just state your name, and when you start talking, I'll start the time. 2 minutes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Anya Baroff. I grew up in Santa Monica. I attended Samo High, and I love this city as it's my hometown. I wanted to speak about police accountability to make it easier for victims to come forward without fear of retaliation. Especially in our diverse community, I've noticed lately that there could be more opportunities for protection of ADA protected Santa Monica residents, women coming forward with crimes, and those who identify as minorities, especially given the rise in anti-Semitism lately. And this includes DV, cyber crimes, and hate crimes reporting, which would require substantial victim advocacy. And I think that's one point that the police department could benefit from. And per Marcy's law, victim advocate should be assigned when asked for, rather than victims trying to navigate complex systems on their own when they're not attorneys and they're just regular people who've had crimes happen to them. And I think support rather than skepticism should be the norm for keeping a policy for really high standards of accountability to vulnerable constituents in Santa Monica. And from my recent experiences with the Santa Monica Police Department, I think giving updates to victims during criminal investigations and keeping up with trauma-informed practices for victims instead of calling victims mentally ill when they're actually in distress could really benefit the police department. And also when victims express concerns about potential police misconduct, retaliation should never occur in any capacity. And I hope the city can continue to be at the forefront of keeping our diverse community safe and protected. And thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Is there any other requests for public comment? General public comment. Okay, Ms. Parson, would you mind calling the next agenda item?
Item 1A, discussion of SMPD's AB 481 mandated report regarding use of approved military equipment. There is one speaker signed up, and that is Michelle Whittick. She has also provided written comment.
Dr. Whittick, when you start talking, I'll start the timer.
Okay, it says 18 seconds here.
There's 2 minutes on mine, but
Great, okay, fair enough.
whenever you're ready.
Federal Executive Order 14074 forbids the U.S. military from selling or transferring an array of specified military equipment to state and local police. Some police departments get around this by purchasing this equipment from private vendors. Does SMPD own or intend to use any equipment or munitions that are on the do not sell or transfer list? Second, the report uses the term de-escalation in 15 places. On what basis, other than claims made by manufacturers, do we know that the use of the various pieces of equipment and munitions actually de-escalate, especially in the context of protests protected by the First Amendment? Third, the report repeatedly uses the phrase "no complaints" in reference to uses it makes of much military equipment and munitions. We know that there are at least 4 lawsuits in progress. How are these not complaints? Fourth, LAPD's after action report states that on May 31st, 2020, quote, while at the pier, SMPD deployed CS gas, parentheses, tear gas. This was a safety concern for LAPD officers because LAPD does not use tear gas. Only a limited number of officers had gas masks, unquote. In summary, when SMPD deployed tear gas at the protesters indiscriminately, SMPD lost some of the trust of the people. This report means nothing if it does not help restore that trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Whittick. Is there any other speakers? Anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay. 2-minute buzzer. Okay, this agenda was on, just a little recap, this was on the agenda at the last meeting. Some of the commissioners felt that it would be beneficial to hear from Santa Monica PD about this item. Commissioner Miller, I believe, was the big proponent of that. So I'm going to turn this over to you if that's okay.
I can turn it on for you.
Thank you so much.
Or maybe I can't. Looks like yours is broken.
I'm movable if need be.
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Well, sure, it wasn't exactly how I was expecting this to proceed, but I'm actually honored by the suggestion. And if I might start with, could we please hear the language that this commission voted on roughly a year ago in sending on to the council, basically greenlighting the military equipment report a year ago. It was a topic of robust discussion at the time. Commissioner Scott, in particular, was languaging an amendment that was specific to heightened concern about tear gas being on the list, although the vote proceeded to approve the list and send it on. But I think that's, and I will try and be briefer, I think that's the logical starting point. What act did this commission take a year ago? And then we could perhaps pick it up from there.
So I just want to be clear, you're asking for the language of the motion that was passed a year ago with regards to a similar item, same item just a year ago, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Ms. Parson, do we have access to that at the moment?
I'm sure I do. If you ask me to find something from a year ago right now, though, it's going to take a little bit.
Okay, that's a reasonable answer. I did sort of, I gave a little bit of a hint of coming attractions at the last meeting by requesting we have this at our avail, but I understand that was 2 months ago and
So why
we're
don't
all
we
busy
do this? Why don't we do this, if I may? Ms.
a
Parson, it sounds
question.
like you might have a little bit of digging to do. Why
Yeah,
don't you proceed with the rest? Why don't you proceed with the rest and she can, in the meantime, see if she can come out. Does that work for you, Ms. Parson?
yeah, but I do have another question, which is you sent a whole report. What language are we looking for?
Well, I have a pretty good general recollection of what it was, but I don't want to, but the record should speak for itself. But if my general recollection could be helpful, maybe married up with Commissioner Scott's, that might help order the conversation without holding it up to get the exact language.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. You're looking for the language of a motion concerning this item just a year ago. Not this exact item, but a similar situated item a year ago. You're looking for the exact language of the motion that was passed. Is that correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
and except for the year, it actually is this exact.
I
number.
understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
Right.
And the reason why I'm interested in the language was because it was much discussed and it was not a simple yay or nay vote. It was actually amendments drawn as a result of the discussion, and the discussion pointed to concern about tear gas.
Okay. So Ms. Parson, do you understand what he's looking for? What Commissioner Miller's looking for at this moment?
Somewhat.
Okay, great. So while she looks for that, you proceed, please,
Very good.
if you have other things.
So Commissioner Scott, chime in anytime, please, and particularly with corrections, but feel free to chime in otherwise as well. So this came out of Commissioner Scott's committee in that, which he chaired or co-chaired at the time, in that it dealt with protest and crowd control. So obviously the issue of military equipment, that was the committee it was vetted through. It was then sent to the full commission, and our discussion raised a few items of considerable concern. The Bearcat was one that got considerable discussion, and tear gas was also another one. So, and then in the discussion, I had requested that I had offered a friendly amendment to remove tear gas from the list and approve the list and send it on to council with all items, including the Bearcat, which I had learned a great deal about over many months. With natural reservations came to be on board with, but that's not tonight's topic. So with regards to tear gas, I was urging a no vote, and the committee chair languaged a heightened concern about the presence of tear gas on that list and calling for scrutiny over the coming year to really look at its continued presence on that list and in the arsenal of our police department. And so I believe that the motion was passed with that language, heightening concern about the presence and sort of an intention to revisit in no longer than a year. Commissioner Scott, does that sound correct?
Yeah, that is correct, because I know we were looking, especially with respect to those who do have respiratory diseases and the effects of tear gas when that's projected.
Indeed, that is one of the, yes, Ms. Parson.
Are you talking about the language around less than lethal uses of force?
No,
I thought so.
it was specific to, because less than lethal force is many categories of munitions.
Oh, the first sentence is there are munitions containing tear gas,
Oh, that
or-
might be it.
Yeah.
resin capsicum, of which consequences of use are unknown in certain settings but have been proven to be harmful.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, would you like me to keep reading it?
Please.
Okay, please note, I sent you this on November 30th, 2023.
Okay.
It
I'm
is the
sorry, would
commission-
you repeat the meeting date again?
I sent it to you on your request on November 30th.
Thank
also.
you.
It is the commission's view that munitions, tear gas, odorous, be used sparingly and with great caution. Reasoning behind this recommendation is the unknown health effects of these munitions, as well as the impact they have on the community at large. It is also the belief of this commission that all uses of force should only be used when all peaceful alternatives have been exhausted in accordance with penal codes 835A PC, use of force, 13652 PC, kinetic energy projectiles, 13514.5 PC, civil disobedience, 7286 government code de-escalation, and SMPD policy numbers 300, use of force, 302, handcuffing and restraints, 303, control devices and techniques, 304, conducted energy devices, 348, mobile field force, 433, First Amendment assemblies. This includes all lethal and less than lethal rubber bullets, uses of force.
So Ms. Parson, just so the record is clear, what is it you were reading from just now?
I am reading from this commission's report
Right.
entitled, just a minute.
So this was the report that the committee, I don't recall if it was.
I think it was protest and crowd management.
Right. And I believe it was joint with use of force committee. I believe the chairs were
Oh, that is
Commissioner
correct.
Scott and Commissioner Centeno.
That
So
is
just-
correct.
So
I'm
just to
sorry.
be clear, what was just read was from the report that was passed by the committee, passed by the commission, and submitted to council on what date, Ms. Parson, again?
July 14th, 2022.
Okay, thank you so much. Proceed, go ahead.
A couple things. First of all, Ms. Parson, that's quite good work to be able to produce that language at this time in the middle of a meeting. So thank you. I think it also points to the importance of contemporaneous minutes and available to commissioners as well as to the members of the public. But the third thing it may point to, and I'm not sure, because I'm ready to confess that my memory may have had rose-colored glasses, as memories sometimes do. But I think you described that as the report from the committee to the full commission. And what I'm referring to are minutes from that full commission meeting. And in particular, because the report was not adopted without change, in which case just the reading of the report as it came from the committee would essentially be perfectly good minutes.
Commissioner, at that time in 2022, your meetings were virtual. Your minutes are video recordings. They are available on the website at any time.
Okay,
But let's clear something up.
sure.
So, Ms. Parson, was that the report submitted to the commission, or was that the report the commission passed and submitted to council?
That is the report that the commission passed and submitted to council. If what you're looking for is notes about the deliberation before you finalize the report,
Right?
you would have to watch the meeting video to review that discussion.
Well,
But
I think in the
hold
interest.
on. But those would be deliberations, nothing
Correct.
passed, and therefore would have no effect.
Understood.
The reason I'm trying to nail this down is just so the record, even though I don't know if there is a record here, but I wish there was. I wish it was recorded
Oh,
still.
announcement. Sorry. We are now recording audio of these meetings.
Oh, we are?
It changed as of January 1st.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. That's
So I'll be
excellent.
able to remember for all time my stumbling
Well,
throughout
no,
this meeting.
because you don't remember the videos. It'll be the same. You'll still have to listen to it.
All right. So the reason I was trying to clarify is so now that we actually have a record, that the record was clear. With that said, proceed.
Okay, so a couple of things. I'd be happy to yield to Commissioner Palazzolo because he just raised his hand.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'd be happy to yield to the commissioner who just raised his hand across from me.
Oh, Commissioner Palazzolo, I didn't see you. I apologize. Go ahead.
Since we're talking about the gas, tear gas, I'm wondering, since we debated this and issued a report on it, has there been any reports of use of tear gas that were not done with due caution as recommended by the report?
I'm not in a position to answer that question.
So I believe that's in the report. We do have Chief Jacob here, who I don't know if he would like to address the commission. Why don't you come on up, sir, and help us out? And then Commissioner Miller, if you have any more questions, or maybe we could address them.
Can I clarify something about the record just quickly and then
Sure.
proceed? So first of all, I'm willing for purposes of just expeditiousness and generosity to say, yes, that's what happened. Nothing else happened. And let's move on. And it still would lend itself to a perfectly fine and appropriate debate. I just want to note, my recollection is that the discussion actually led to language change. Okay, now it's possible that that language change is indeed incorporated in that document, except if it's this exact document that came from the committee, those are two conflicting.
It isn't.
Two conflicting
It
facts.
isn't.
Okay.
It isn't. What I read you is the final version of the document that was sent to council with all of the changes that were made during the meeting when you all deliberated. That is your language that I just read to you, that you provided in that meeting.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I totally accept that as the basis for proceeding.
Okay. Is there anything else, Commissioner Miller?
Well, I'm interested in hearing from Santa
No, I
Monica
understand
Police
that, but-
Department, and after
what-
that, I likely will have some questions.
Okay, that's fine. Chief Jacob, welcome. Hi. Let me turn your mic on.
So what exactly was the question?
Commissioner Palazzolo?
Since we're talking about tear gas and how it was handled in the previous report, has there been any incidents from the time of that report to present in which tear gas was used and not used in a cautious manner, or I forget the exact language, but in the language recommended in the report?
No, one, and just for the record, the mandated report 841 requires that the police department every year submit a report about our use of any of our military grade equipment that's specified, which we brought to the committee here today. Anytime we use any of that equipment, it is in the report. And as I had that meeting and briefed you on the new state law, anytime we use tear gas, right, we have to bring it to this body. We have to present a report within 30 days, and it must be reported on our website and out to the public. Every single time we do it, every single time we've done it, right, in a First Amendment type of incident. And so, no. Yes, no, sir,
Okay.
we have not. Because if I did, it would be in the report that was all emailed to you in October, actually before October, in July, when it was completed.
Did you have
We
another?
haven't used any since then either.
Okay, I think that's a pretty definitive no. Commissioner Miller, did you have any more questions? Because Commissioner Stroud did.
I'm happy to go last, actually. I have several questions in mind.
Go ahead.
But let's hear from the other commissioners, and I'll do cleanup.
It's your item, so I'm going to give you a lot of deference.
I
But
think-
go ahead, Commissioner Stroud.
I'm going to defer, but thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Hey, Deputy Chief, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Some quick questions. What's that? Come on. And happy holidays. Some quick questions for you on the report. We have several robots and drones. I see that none have been used, all training. Because I think the air drones have been used. some silly questions, but just wanted to state for the record, is there any way to arm any of the robots or the drones with explosives or any kind of weapon?
Absolutely not.
And is there any situation, granted, barring an alien invasion happening, where the Santa Monica PD would arm with explosives or some kind of weapons the drones or robots?
Absolutely not. And we are not a department that has explosives. We do not have an explosive breaching program, any other explosives.
Perfect. And then on tear gas, I wasn't here for this, the original debate. What are protocols for the use of tear gas? I know once you use them, there's a ton of protocols, but what is say the thought process or the decision-making process to use tear gas going
Sure.
forward?
Well, so we use tear gas in one of two ways. The most actually, the way we use tear gas the most are on barricaded suspects and SWAT incidents. And obviously those lend themselves when we're trying to extricate somebody from a building. That deployment of tear gas is absolutely separate from the laws that have come out in since May 31st. And as you probably weren't here, but when we briefed on that, on the different laws that have come out and that's in our policy on First Amendment, we have to de-escalate prior, try to meet with members. We have to give people a pathway. We have to give them advance warning. There's a lot of different things that have to go in before we even used, and we can't use them at First Amendment activities. That First Amendment activity has to it has to devolve into some type of riotous crowd. It has to, and there's a whole list of things that make it that. So we can't just say this First Amendment activity is now an unlawful assembly. Right? There's a legal definition for it, and there's a bunch of things that have to happen for that to happen. So there's like a list of, and forgive me, I can't remember them all. Actually, there's like a list of like 10 things on that. Am I right, Lieutenant Green? 17 things that we have to do before we can deliver gas to that situation. So obviously that takes quite a while for that to happen. That's a state law that we follow that's now incorporated into our policy. The folks who can actually deploy it are only from our mobile field force. They're specifically trained in the deliverance of gas and how we do that. And so that is, it's probably one of the most regulated things in our state now.
And one last question not related to tear gas. What happens if you end up not using, say, the tear gas for some other kind of military grade weapon and the new model comes out and you replace the new model? What happens to the old model? Is it sold, or what's protocol for old military grade weaponry?
It depends. It depends on what it is and depends on what we have. So when 841 requires that, as you guys remember, when we already can use drones, right? We know that. But every time you had Sergeant Leone come in and tell you about the 2 new drones that we bought. So every single time we get a new piece of equipment or add to our group, we have to come to this body and tell you exactly what that is. And then we have to tell you what happens to our old equipment. What happens with that? Do we dispose of it? Do we sell it? Do we gift it to another department with kind of less, that's maybe not financially as capable as the city of Santa Monica? And so we're required to tell you, and that happens on the 841 report, what happens with that particular piece of equipment.
So I can't buy a drone or tear gas from the SMPD when it's old?
Can
No,
you?
I
Well,
cannot.
we can't sell tear gas.
A normal person cannot.
No,
Okay. Thank
No.
you.
no, and we wouldn't sell it. Sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Vice Chair Centeno.
There's a question brought up. Does the Santa Monica Police Department?
Turn mic on. Can you turn his mic on?
Yes, okay. Does the Santa Monica policy condone the use of tear gas when people are exercising their First Amendment rights?
Our policy follows state law. We cannot use tear gas on First Amendment activities.
So you wouldn't, okay, so it's only when somebody or there are people exercising First Amendment rights, but then there are other people that are not exercising First Amendment rights, but actually causing harm to either the community or to the police department.
Sure. So again, that may not be an unlawful assembly or an unruly crowd, right? There's a bunch of different things that go in to make it a riotous situation. that goes into those things. And then as Lieutenant Green said, there's a list of 17 steps of things that we have to do prior to even delivering tear gas to any particular thing. And then part of that is singling out those particular individuals who may be causing a riotous situation. So it's pretty specific in our policy and in state law.
Thank you.
And just for the record, when Chief Jacob was referring to Lieutenant Green stated 17, there were 17 17 situations where tear gas could be deployed. And then
No, 17 specific things that the police department must do prior to deploying gas.
processes. And then Deputy Chief Jacob repeated it, just for the record. And I have a question for you, if I may, sir, and then I'll go back to Commissioner Miller. With regards to the tear gas, who is the authority to issue? Who is the authority to issue an order to deploy tear gas? I
Well,
don't know if I'm using the right term.
Yeah, you are. It starts with maybe whoever the tactical commander is, they make that request. It goes to the incident commander. But ultimately, and per state law and per our policy, it's the chief of police who ultimately makes that decision to deliver.
So just to be clear, no one other than the chief of police can order the deployment of tear gas.
That's correct. The chief of police or or his or her designee at that particular time.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you. So the 840 report, and I'm referencing it correctly, right? Okay, and that report calls upon the department certainly to highlight any use of the equipment, but the report is really about possession and use, correct?
No. So again, we spent months kind of going over 841 when that bill got passed. And so in that, the state government said that all of these things are considered military equipment. So we presented to you a list of all of those things that we had in our possession that were considered military equipment, right? No, we didn't consider it, the state did, right? They gave us a list, we listed everything out on that list and presented those things to you. You pulled certain things out of that list, the Bearcat, some of our tear gas, some of our other stuff. We discussed those things. And then as Ms. Parsons said, you guys made an amendment to the thing, but again, we helped you make that amendment because those policy sections we gave you.
I don't mean to interrupt. We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay,
Thank you.
no worries.
We're on recess.